Richard Skipper celebrates. Every show is a celebration. Richard Skipper celebrates the best in entertainment. Each show, Richard delivers the artists you love, showcasing what makes them unique. Never gossipy. The antidote to a sometimes hectic world. Now, here's your host, Richard Skipper.
Happy New Year, everyone, and welcome to the last show of 2021. And what a year it's been. I have been so fortunate to sit here with some of the greatest artists, some that you know, some that you didn't know, some that you've gotten to know, and I haven't done it alone. I want to take a moment before we start today's show, and I would like to thank Chuck Pennington for the work that he's done in terms of the incredible collages, musical collages that he put together this year. Glenn Charlo with the incredible overlays that he did. Tess LaBella, who did these incredible voiceovers, and she leads my fan club. Rosa Puzo, Leo Rodriguez, everyone who lifts me up daily, and for each and every one of you. Those of you who show up, show after show after show, I couldn't do it without you, and I want to thank you all for being here. Just before we went live today, the news broke that the incredible Betty White has transitioned. She's moved on to another realm, and I know that Alan Ludden is waiting on the other side with welcoming arms. We had her long enough, and now it's his turn. But what a wonderful life. That's what we should celebrate. We should celebrate the 99 years that we had her, and what an incredible legacy that she left behind. And I am so excited today also that I get to celebrate a wonderful young man, Trey Olds. And some time ago, he had me on his show, and I was lucky enough to be interviewed by him. And he said, you know, Richard, I would love to come on your show sometime. And I said, sure, why not? And unfortunately, circumstances led at the time that we had originally scheduled that we had to reschedule. And then we rescheduled a second time, but third time's a charm, he's here. And I'm so thrilled that you're here, Trey. Welcome to our show. And I want to ask you, the name of this show is Richard Skipper Celebrates. We are at the end of another year. And I want to ask you, in the midst of this crazy world that we're living in, what are you celebrating today?
Well, Richard, thank you for having me. First of all, it's a pleasure. And what a year it has been. We have some ups and downs. So it was been quite a year, but I'm celebrating, being here with you to talk to you, being alive each day to interview people, to make new friends, just to enjoy this world, to enjoy the life we've been given.
Now, Trey, I want to tell everyone a little bit about yourself. You also interview a lot of celebrities. I don't know if you've ever had the opportunity of interviewing Betty White, but I do know that you had the opportunity of interviewing Ed Asner, who we also lost this year. Can you tell us a little bit about that interview, how that interview came about, and what you gleaned from him, things that you learned about him that perhaps you didn't know prior to the interview?
Yeah, I interviewed Ed Asner twice, once a few years ago and then last year, it might have been early 2020, but we talked about his career and his tenure being the president of the SAG, the Screen Actors Guild. And he was just such a generous man to talk to, very warm, very informative, and gave a lot of advice. And pieces of advice he gave me that I'll never forget is, stick with it. If you love this industry, stick with it. It is a hard industry to be in. You have to have a thick skin, but if you have the craft, the passion for it, stick with it, and things will come your way.
So Trey, what is it about this industry that pulls you in?
Well, I started in this industry professionally at a very young age. I'm 21 now, but I started when I was 13.
You're still at a very young age.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Yes.
Absolutely. And it just pulled me. I was always interested ever since I was a little kid, watching television, listening to the radio. I was just always interested in people. How did they get into that? It's interesting. It's something that other jobs don't have. It's a different kind of job. So as I got older and I was doing theater and all throughout school, and then at 13 I had the opportunity to work with a radio show host in Baton Rouge, Louisiana, which is where I'm from. And so he showed me the ropes. He was a mentor of mine. His name was Scott Ennis. He's still doing great, and I check with him daily. And so it was wonderful to have a mentor and to help me in this career. And it's kind of hard to describe to be in this industry, because some days, you think, well, how just me, a country boy from Louisiana, got pulled into this industry to interview people like Ed Asner, Marion, Emmett Walsh, all these great actors and other individuals in the industry. And so it's always great to reminisce about that. And it's just great to be in the industry. And I can't imagine myself doing anything else.
Well, let's talk about the road that got you there. First of all, let's talk a little bit. You are from Baton Rouge, Louisiana. Let's talk a little bit about your home life, your parents. Do you have brothers and sisters?
Yes, I have 2 older brothers and my parents, and I came from a small family, but I grew up, I'm Cajun. I'm Cajun French. And so, yeah, I had that. And I lived near New Orleans, Louisiana, where it's big with jazz and the blues music. So I had that aspect. And I had a few uncles that were musicians in New Orleans. They played blues music. And so I was always around that aspect in a certain point. And so I guess I had it in me, that trait in me to get into the industry. And here we are today. It's been a long road, and it's still a long road. You still are taking this journey every day in life, and you have to enjoy it.
Now, Trey, you meant right in the very first sentence of your bio that you sent me, you mentioned that you are autistic. And if you can tell us a little bit about that discovery for your family and for yourself, and how that has affected you in terms of your work and being in this industry, and going about getting your interviews. And has it really affected the work that you do in any major way? And what are the biggest things that surprise people when they find out that you are autistic? And what do you think are the biggest things that people are surprised about with someone who is living with autism?
Well, I've always been autistic. I was first diagnosed being autistic when I was about 6 or 7. And they did some more tests when I was about 10 years old. So I always knew I was different than other people. I was special needs. I was in school with that kind of stuff. And it surprises people because, I guess a lot of people, and I tell people, if you've met one autistic person, you've met one autistic person. Everyone is different on the spectrum.
Thank you for saying that.
Yeah. Everyone is different on the spectrum. Everyone is completely different. It's a vast spectrum, and it's still being researched to this day. It's a big spectrum. And I guess it surprises people, because I got out and started doing things. I didn't, feel sorry for myself or didn't stay closed indoors. I wanted to do what I wanted to do, which is radio interviewing and acting and writing. And I did it, and it just surprises people that I had the initiative, despite being special needs, to do it.
Well, Trey, as a kid, when you say that you were different, we're all different. I was considered a different kid myself growing up in a small town in South Carolina. But when you were growing up and your teachers were saying that you were different, were they trying to isolate you from the other kids? Were they trying to treat you any differently from the other kids? What was that experience like for you as a 6-year-old?
Yes, they tried to isolate me, put me in a certain group, but I wanted to be like everyone else. I thought and I am like everyone else.
Yes.
We just have different setbacks, and everyone does in life. And so it was always a process, and it still is a process when you go to new places. And, because I do have some challenges being autistic, and some happen to be tough, not so tough. I know when I first started interviewing people, I was very nervous to talk to people. I was always a talker. I love to talk, but to get on a microphone and on camera to talk to someone that you really don't really know, and that was very nerve-wracking. But once I started doing it, it became natural. It's like a conversation like we're having now. It's not really an interview. It's just a conversation between two friends who have the same passion.
Exactly. Now, when the diagnosis first came, did that change anything in terms of the dynamics of your family life?
No, not really. I was always treated the same like my brothers. I was never treated any different. And I think that's a good thing, because if you're treated in a certain bubble, once you get out in the real world, you're kind of in for a rude awakening,
Well, that speaks volumes about your parents as well. And once you started telling your parents that what you wanted to do in your life, were they supportive, or were there any obstacles being placed in your path? And if there were obstacles, where were those obstacles coming from?
Yes, well, they supported me, but they did tell me, some things in life, Trey, it's not going to be easy, so you have to be prepared for the advantages and disadvantages and the consequences of your actions and different things you do in life. But we support you in what you're doing. And, as I did it over the years, acting and interviewing, I had, some good days and some bad days. And you have to just have a positive attitude and just live life the best you can.
Absolutely. And that's true if you're not autistic. So it's, but how did it start for you? Did you start acting when you were in school? And did you have exposure to the arts when you were in school?
Yes, I started acting in school, probably in middle school. I started and did plays, and then we had different sort of events where there was plays and needed like some voiceover stuff. And everyone, since I was little, they said I have a unique voice. I talk very differently. I have a unique accent as well, because I was raised in Louisiana, Cajun, and then later in life moved to Mississippi. So have a full Southern Cajun accent, I guess you could say.
True.
And so that was one of my greatest assets, I guess, was my voice. And then to act on stage. And then when I got out of high school, I did some independent films for the University of Mobile, where I live near now, and community theaters, community colleges, theater departments, and independent works online with voiceover narration. And it's been probably, I started when I was 13. It's been 9 years professionally. I've done voiceovers in theater, so and radio. So it's a fun gig. My dad always told me, he said, Trey, if you enjoy your work, if you enjoy doing what you do, it's really not considered work.
That's true, and I agree with that. So what were the first steps that you took on your own path to being a celebrity interviewer?
Well, when I first started radio, when I first did my radio show for the first 2 years, I just did disc jockey. I played music.
Let's back up for a moment. You have a radio show. How did that come about?
Well, I worked a little bit with my mentor, Scott Ennis, and he said, Trey, you should start your own radio show or podcast, and I can help you get started in that. And what would you like to do with it? I said, well, I want to interview people, but I want to do disc jockeying first, play music, promote music, because I love music. That's another part of my background. And he said, oh.
Hopefully he'll come right back. It happens, folks. That's live podcasting or live streaming. He'll come back in a moment, I hope. But I'll keep talking until he gets back. Of course, I'm on with Trey Olds today, and he is living with autism. But as you can tell from this interview, he is not stopping. It keeps him going. He keeps going out. He is pursuing a career in this. I hope that he is aware that he has left the screen. I hope that he just pops back on the screen. That's all he needs to do. I don't know what happened. He must have hit a button, something. Trey, if you're out there, I'll give him a few more moments. If he is not able to come back, we will do this at another time. There could be a weather issue. There could be an internet, Ethernet issue. I don't know. It says that I'm still live. It's the last day of the year. Anything could be going on. But while I'm waiting for him to get here, let's talk about what's going on in the world right now. As I said at the beginning of the show, we lost Betty White today. That's the big news. I was watching CNN earlier when I got the news. Here he is. He is back.
Sorry,
Trey,
the connection cut out. I'm sorry.
What happened?
The connection cut out. I apologize.
Well, you're back. That's, so I just kept talking until you came back. So these things happen. I am live, as my friend Glenn Charlo points out. So you were saying that you started out doing disc jockeying. You mentioned that you love music. What kind of music do you listen to?
I love all kinds of music, but most because I grew up on jazz music and blues music and Cajun music and country music. So a little bit of all aspects, and I applied that to my radio show. I played all that, and I did that for about 2 years, and then I just said, not necessarily was tired of doing music, but I wanted to switch my gears a little bit. So I said, maybe this would be the best time to start interviewing. And the first person I interviewed was my mentor, Scott Ennis. And that was a fun interview. And then other interviews came along.
Well, let's stop before you go on before that. Let's talk about Scott Ennis. What made him a great mentor for you?
He was a very great mentor and still is a great mentor.
Scott,
he
told I hope
me,
you're watching.
Yes, I hope he is watching. He said, if you have this dream, never give up. No matter what people tell you, if they try to knock you down, get right back up and do it. And that stuck with me, and it still sticks with me. And I apply it to all the interviews I do. And I tell people, because people have reached out to me, even though I'm still doing interviews and still at a young age, they ask advice of me, and I tell them that, if you have a dream, do it, go for it. Let no one stop you. And you have to love it. And if you love it, do it.
And so he gets you on the right path. He leads you into the world of celebrity interviewing. After you start this podcast or radio program, who was the first major celebrity that you got, and how did that come about?
The first major celebrity was, in fact, Ed Asner. And I found him through his daughter, Liza Asner, because she was his manager. She handled everything with interviews and publicity and all that. And I reached out to her, and she said, my father would love to talk to you. And he talked a little bit about his family. He has a son with autism and grandchildren with autism. So we kind of connected with that. And he was very proud of me for achieving my goal, and was asking me, who I would like to interview. He could connect me with certain people and mentor me in a way as well. And me and him stayed in contact throughout, the later years in his life. And, the last time I interviewed him was the year, he passed away, and then he passed away a few months later. And
Yes. Yeah. Earlier this year, he
yeah.
passed away. And, Charlotte Ray's son has a new book out. I don't know if you're aware of this. And he has a brother who has autism. And he really talks about this in the book, and the fact that Charlotte Ray was really took care of her autistic son and was always there for him and never put that aside. So that's a real strong through line in this new book that just came out. So that might be a very good interview for you to go after.
Absolutely. I'll definitely have to look into that, most definitely.
So, Ed Asner, what an incredible man that he started putting you in touch with other people. Who were some of the people that he did put you in touch with?
Yeah, there were a few people, and I must say, during this, some interviews never happen. When you do interviews and contact people, sometimes it may not come right away, or you might have to reach them at another time. But he got me in contact with another actor he worked with in Lou Grant, Robert Walden. And
Yes.
we're still in contact, trying to set up an interview, and a few others, Elliot Gould, and coincidentally, Marion Ross, who I did interview. And she was another wonderful talent to interview. And I interviewed her son, Jim Ross Meskimen. He's an actor as well. And so it's a big world, connections. That's what I tell people, connections. The more connections, the better,
So when you set out to set an interview, I know that I have my own ideas of what I'm looking for when I go out for an interview. But when you sit down to interview someone, do you have a particular goal in mind? And of course, across the spectrum, everything's different. But do you have a particular idea of where you want to go with someone? For example, Ed Asner, what was your original goal and intent when you reached out to interview him?
Well, yeah. Well, Ed Asner, what a great talent. I wanted to get across, what was his advice to people who wanted to get in the industry, because he was in the industry for a long, long time and was the president of the Screen Actors Guild for a while. And I just wanted to get that across. What was his advice to people who wanted to get into the industry? And I wanted to get to what was his experiences to get in the industry, and his experiences within the industry. So that's what I try to drive at with every interview. If they've been in it a long time, what is their advice? What is your words of wisdom?
So you're really interested in the technical end of the business.
Yes.
Okay, that's really great. Now, I also want to ask you, is there a holy grail interview? That interview that you want to get among all others?
Yes, there are quite a few people that I try to interview. You always have an interview wish list, like, who do you want to interview? What's your dream interview? And my dream interview, I always wanted to try to get Betty White, but it never happened. I did get her autographed picture, though. That was
Well, I will tell you that, I have worked on a project for many years celebrating all the women, and I always say a few good men, who have played Dolly in Hello, Dolly. And Betty White, believe it or not, played Dolly. And so I finally got her manager, reached out to me and said, if you'll send us the questions, she will answer them for you. So I sent them the questions, and they came back with one-word answers. So it was not something that I was ever able to use, but I did get a response. And unfortunately, that was as close as I got to getting that interview with Betty White. So unfortunately, I never got that interview either. And kudos to all the people out there who got those interviews with Betty White.
Absolutely.
Let me ask you this, besides the usual question, I mean, the question that you would have asked about the advice that she would have gotten or given to someone going into the business. What one thing would you like to have known about Betty White that you don't think that any of us actually know about her?
Well, that's a tough question. I would have liked to ask, what did she see in the industry that lured her in the industry? What did she see, those many years ago that she wanted to be in the entertainment industry? I would have liked to ask that question. I think that would have been a very, like you said, a holy grail type question. It would be an answer with so many words of wisdom and experience.
Now, do you have a favorite Betty White role? I mean, she did so many incredible, iconic roles on television. And it seems like with Betty White, there's a role for every generation. For those of us who have grown up watching her, do you have a favorite character that she played?
Well, I guess I'd have to say the cliche answer, Golden Girls, Rose,
Although I love Sue Ann Nivens. I'm just crazy about her on the Mary Tyler Moore Show.
Absolutely. She brought every thing to each role. It was a different role each time. She was truly a great actress, truly.
And I was thinking about this today. It's so ironic that this year, 4 of those character actors, Cloris Leachman, Ed Asner, Gavin MacLeod, and now Betty White, all in 1 year that we lost from that series. And I was lucky enough to know Valerie Harper. So that was, and I never got a chance to sit down and interview her, unfortunately. But I did get to know her in the last couple of years of her life because of a mutual friend that we both had. Who were some of the other interviews that you would have loved to have had or still would like to get?
Well, that's a great question. There's so many, you never stop thinking of who you can interview because there's so many individuals. I would have liked to interview, he's passed away now. He was a brilliant character actor in the movies, Max von Sydow.
Oh, yes.
One of my favorite character actors, and never had the chance to interview him, although I talked to his manager and we tried to set something up, but he was unavailable, but sent me an autographed picture and, so you win and lose a little bit. You win some and lose some, but that's okay. You look forward to the next time to do your craft. It's a never ending story.
Well, let me ask you this, because this has happened to me a few times. Is there somebody that you got very close to interviewing and then they passed away? Or has there been someone that you have interviewed shortly before they passed away?
Yes, there's quite a few. One that I wanted to interview, it was an actor named John Hillerman, who was on Magnum PI with Tom Selleck. And we were scheduling an interview, and then, it was a month process. We're going to do it next month, and he sadly passed away before we did the interview. And it's a bit sad, because you get to anticipate and talk to these people and not necessarily get your hopes up, but it's kind of shocking.
Mm-hmm. I was so close to getting an interview with Eileen Brennan when she passed away, and we were back and forth with the negotiations. We talked about the Holy Grail interviews that you still want to go for. Let's talk about the Holy Grail interviews that you did get. We've already talked about Ed Asner, Marion Ross, an interview that you were really chomping at the bit to get. And then you get that interview and you must have been jumping around in hoops. I've had those moments where you get the interview and you go, oh my God, I can't believe I got this. Name some of those.
A wonderful character actor named Emmett Walsh, who I interviewed about maybe 3 or 4 years ago. And he's one of the big character actors on the lines close to another character actor who's passed away, Harry Dean Stanton.
Mm-hmm.
Those two were like the main character actors you would see in movies.
Mm-hmm.
And Emmett Walsh, I contacted his manager and we set something up, and it was a wonderful interview. He because I told him I had autism, and he explained he had a little bit of special needs as well. He was deaf. He's deaf in his left ear, and so he said that kind of changed his life and kind of put different challenges in his acting career. He wanted to do theater originally in his career. He wanted to do Shakespeare and all that, but being deaf, he really couldn't do it. And but he became successful, of course, in movies and many other things, So, if your original plan may change, but you can do something greater.
That's wonderful that you say that. How do you go about getting your interviews?
Well,
you don't have to give away your trade secrets. I'm not trying
It is a process. You have to go through their managers and their talent agents, because it's very rare when you have to, if you can get through them directly. You have to always go through the middleman. And that's a process, but it's necessary, and they work with you. And if it's available, they do it. And it's a fun interview.
Now, we're in right now, especially because of COVID and everything, everybody and his brother either has a podcast or a live stream show. How do you navigate through the waters of keeping what you do out there among the people? How do you get the word out about what you're doing so that you basically can keep yourself either a step ahead of everyone else or a step above the crowd? Do you have certain methods that you're doing to try to keep your name out there and above everyone else?
Yes, you have to promote yourself, and I do that on social media. And when I do interviews, I promote the next interview, staying afloat. And it's challenging because, it's a big industry. It's a lot of it's a competition, really, because like you said, everyone and their brother has a podcast or radio program, and it's competing against yours or the others or so forth. So you have to be kind of technical in this business as well. If you're doing a radio show, producing and editing and promoting, you have to be on all your toes to stay successful.
Well, let me ask you, what have you learned about yourself from doing all of these celebrity interviews? I find that with each interview that I do, I seem to learn something new about myself. What have you learned the most about yourself from doing all of these celebrity interviews over the past few years?
Well, I've learned, perseverance, being persistent. I think to myself, if I didn't get into interviewing or the industry, I wouldn't be as persistent as I am. I always try to get to the point, try to get there, and make it a worthwhile occasion. And and it's not perfect. You can't be over persistent. You can't have a big ego, but you have to have an ego to a certain extent. Mm-hmm. But you learn something about yourself. You really do, and you learn something new. I find I learn something new every time I do an interview.
Absolutely. Now, one thing that surprises me in your bio is that you say that you're semi-retired. What exactly does that mean? Can you explain that to me?
Well, I used to do interviews 3 days a week, and but and now it's back to 3 days a week because of COVID. But when COVID was not happening, I did interviews every so often, and I would do theater, I would do writing, I would do the different aspects of the industry. And then for a while, a few years ago, I had to kind of narrow myself from doing things because I had some health issues. So that's why I say I'm semi-retired. I'm healthy now. I'm back to full health, doing so many. Absolutely. And so, yeah, I really say I'm semi-retired as a little bit of a joke, but, I could be doing more, but, it's fun to do what you're doing.
Do you have a routine? Do you have a daily routine that you stick to? Or, I mean, in terms of how you are pursuing your career? Because not only do you do the podcast, but you also have a theatrical career as well, and also voiceovers.
Yes, it is difficult to kind of juggle all of them at once, but I say it helps, if you're doing radio interviewing, that expertise comes into play with voiceovers. If you're doing theater, that comes into play with voiceovers. If you're doing voiceovers, that comes in to play with physical acting. Do all what you can do. Become a double threat, become a triple threat. Learn as many things you can in this industry. And I do have a certain routine, especially right now with COVID. We're not really doing theater anymore. So most of my work is radio and voiceover work, and writing on the side a little bit. But yeah, you have to kind of juggle all of that at once. And but if you love doing it, it's no trouble at all.
Well, let's talk about where we are right now in the world. COVID, of course, stopped the whole world about a year and a half plus ago. And then we thought we were out of it, or we thought we were almost out of it. And then it came back with a vengeance. How has the past year and a half plus affected your life beyond the obvious that all of us are going through? How has it changed you as a person, for the better and for the worse?
Yeah, COVID has been just terrible, and I have to be extra careful because I'm a diabetic. I'm autoimmune. I'm immune. I'm very susceptible to getting COVID, and so I really don't. I try not to go out of my comfort zone. I wear the mask. I can't really be too strenuous and get too carried away because of my health. And and it's COVID has taken a damper on things because human beings, I find, we're very social. We love getting out there. We love talking to people and just making friends and being positive in the world. But with COVID, that kind of has put a damper on things and limited things. So I think we've had to adapt as human beings the best way we can.
Well, maybe you've just answered this question. Maybe you haven't. But how has it affected your work in terms of, and what are the things that you've learned about yourself through COVID that you think you will carry through your work moving outside of COVID?
Well, still being persistent, still having that craft to do it, but also having that extra safety. You still have to be cautious, and because my honest opinion, I don't think COVID is going to go away anytime soon. I think this is going to be our reality for a little bit more. And you have to adapt, you have to adjust, and but we have to stay positive. If we be negative all the time, who would want to be around us? Who it just makes our whole attitude, our whole life a little depressing, and no one wants to live like that.
And here we are once again, New Year's Eve. Are you the type of person who celebrates New Year's Eve normally? If yes, how are you celebrating tonight? If no, How are you celebrating tonight? So what are your plans later tonight?
Well, I don't go anywhere. I usually just stay home and stay up till midnight and call a few friends and family members happy New Year's, and I kind of get the bad end of the stick with that because some are asleep at midnight. So,
Well, you can call me. I'll be awake.
so yeah, it's I was never really a party person. I kind of keep to myself. I guess you could say I'm a little shy, but I love to interact with people. But just I'm a very cautious and very shy about things.
And do you make resolutions? And if so, have you made resolutions? And what's your thought patterns on when it comes to making resolutions in going into the new year?
Yeah, I've made resolutions a few years. My New Year's resolution this year is just stay in better health, stay in shape, and just achieve. I always say, with my work, in the industry, do better next year do better next year, keep doing it. You can always get better. There's always room to learn. You never stop learning.
Well, I have a mantra, and it's that I always like to try to be at least 1% better today than I was yesterday. And my friend Howard Tucker, who's watching, Howard, you can call me at midnight tonight. I don't mind. I'm going to be waiting for his phone call. And everyone who's watching, call me tonight at midnight if you can get through. So I want to play a little game with you. I always used to, one of my favorite shows was always Inside the Actor's Studio. And I end my shows with these questions, as James Lipton used to end his shows with. So I'm just going to have some random questions just for the fun of it. And let's see where this takes us. Okay. And I want to ask you, first of all, when did you have the most fun in your life?
The most fun in my life is really working in the industry. I always think to myself, I would never have gotten to places if I wasn't in this industry, to certain places, to meeting certain people. And it's just a wonderful industry to be in. It's a part of your life. And like I said earlier, you never fully retire from this industry unless health prevents otherwise, but you always are in it. And to have fun, that's the key to life, just to have fun.
Well, as Betty White said, at 90 years old, or 90 years young, I should say, I'm the luckiest old broad in the industry, and God bless her. So I agree with you on that. And I want to ask you, as far as your career, and this could relate to an interview that you didn't get or aspects of your career, do you have any regrets when it comes to the work that you've done or that you have not done? Are there any regrets that are out there?
A few. Yeah, there are a few regrets. There are a few interviews I've passed up due to other commitments. And there was one, I was going to interview, and he passed away, and it was going to happen, but I had to cancel because of another event, and we didn't get to do another interview because he passed away. So that was a regret. I was looking forward to it, but life brings us somewhere else for a reason.
That's right. Absolutely, it does. What is the largest debt that you have ever racked up in this industry?
Let's see. Maybe, are you saying like an income, biggest income?
Yes.
Probably $250 for an independent film,
Oh, that's well, God bless you for that. Oh my God. Good for you, because this is a very expensive business to be in.
Yes, it doesn't pay well, but if you're in it to win it, you gotta love it.
Where in your life have you felt the safest?
with my family, with my parents. I always felt safe with them, and still feel safe with them, even though I don't live with them anymore. But uh, there's no better feeling just to be by your family that loves you very much and supports you and loves you unconditionally.
Absolutely, that's true. Um, well, that brings me to my next question. Did you ever worry your parents when you were growing up?
Oh yeah, oh yes. That's an understatement. I'm a worrier. I always worried about where we have to go, what are we doing, what are we, and so yeah, and I think I still do worry my parents, but that's just me.
Okay, okay. Um, who is the love of your life?
uh, I really don't have a love of my life. I never found anyone uh, to be in love with yet, but that may change.
Well, it will change. When you least expect it, that person's out there. Maybe that's going to happen this year, this next year. When you least expect it, Trey, it's there.
I believe that
Yeah,
absolutely.
I know so. Trust me. Um, who among your friends made the worst first impression on you?
Um, I don't know. Worst impression. Well, I'll say this. I always tell people my first impression to people is usually I stick with it. I stick with my gut. But there's been a few times I've met people that my first impression was wrong, and I admit that I was wrong,
Mhm,
and
mhm.
that's hard to do.
Yes. Okay. Okay. What's the best telephone call that you've ever made or received?
The best telephone call I ever received was when I interview, back to interviewing, when I guess I just have to say the call I got when I got approved and confirmed to interview Ed Asner. That I always loved him, watching him on television, Mary Tyler Moore, Lou Grant, and that was a highlight. That was a
Mhm.
very highlight.
Oh, that's wonderful. Um, are you a follower or a leader?
I try to be a leader. I
Mhm.
try, if I'm a follower at times, if the leader is is a good idea to follow. But I always tell people, be a leader, be the first role model you can be your own role model.
Okay. And what is the most valuable way that you spend your time during the day?
Valuable way. I don't know. Just loving life, being content. Being content with what you have. Don't try to strive to have more. Be content with what you have.
That's wonderful. What is the youngest age in which you think people should go into this profession?
Well, I started when I was 13, so I would say around, your teen years, but I've known some people, like child actors, they start when they were younger. So
Mhm.
I usually tell people, the younger the better. The younger the better.
Okay. Wow. Wow. Um, what do you feel you have been most appreciated for in your career?
Just because a lot of people come to me for advice, and I feel very humbled that people would want to come to me for advice and my experiences. And I'm very flattered that people would come to me, not to sound, egotistic or anything, just content with uh, people liking my work and just to be thought of as a leader and, someone worth having their advice given to.
That's great. That's wonderful. Who do you think that is the easiest person that you have ever dealt with in this industry?
Easiest. I would say fellow interviewers, because we're all on the kind of on the same page. It's I don't
Sometimes.
sometimes
Sometimes, yes.
sometimes because as I said, you do make friends with people, but it is also a competition, and I kind of add to that a friendly competition.
Yeah,
you know,
yeah,
uh, so I would say fellow interviewers, fellow performers.
yeah. That's wonderful. I like to think so. If when they're good, I admire them. I really do. What conventional wisdom that's out there do you most disagree with?
That I must disagree with. Um, there's a few people, a lot of people, you know, being in the industry, they think it's a get rich scheme. And I, I disagree with that because I've learned that from experience so far.
Mhm.
Uh, so I always try to tell people, that is kind of a no. That's
Mhm.
not a good advice point to follow, because you have good seasons and bad seasons. If you want to do something that makes a lot of money, this industry is not the place.
Listen, everybody, that's true. What was the hardest apology that you've ever delivered in this industry?
That I've ever delivered in this industry. Uh, I guess when you interviewing, you get so wrapped up in time, and it goes back to regrets. You have to make the time, and there was a few times that regrettably I didn't make the time, and things never happened. So just you have to make the time. You have to be that person.
Hmm. Absolutely. What was your biggest find working in the past year? What is the biggest thing that you've learned about yourself in the past year?
To be grateful for what you have. Try not to want for more, just to be grateful and contented with what you are having right now.
Wonderful. What is your biggest self doubt?
Biggest self-doubt. I guess I'm self-conscious. I really, and I'm working on it. I really don't like watching my own work or listening to my own work. I don't like hearing my voice or uh, seeing
I
myself.
don't think Trey, there's not a person that I know in this industry who does, believe it or not. So that's nothing new. I feel the same way. How do you plan ahead with promoting yourself?
Well, you have to plan ahead. Because you're always doing something. But sometimes when we plan ahead, as we know in life, it doesn't happen sometimes. And so I really try not to plan too far ahead, but you have to kind of plan ahead with interviewing in this industry, you know.
Absolutely. What one thing do you wish that you had done differently this past year?
Uh, being more patient. I'm not a person with a lot of patience. I'm working on it, but and we learn patience all the time. We'll never stop learning it, and I think that's an important asset in life. You have to learn is a lot of patience.
Hmm. What do you feel most guilty about over this past year?
Most guilty about, I guess, just uh, doing things a bit differently. I wish I could have done more things in this year instead of just being contented. I guess just doing more things. I could have done a lot more.
Okay. What is the most cash that you have ever held in your hand at any one time?
Um, Probably um, when for one of my birthdays, my dad gave me $200.
Okay. Okay. What is the hardest decision that you have ever had to make in the past year?
Hardest decision. Uh, this year I moved into an apartment, and I guess that was a hard decision moving away from my parents. They're still close by, but moving away, you know, feeling safe. I guess just moving away from that, and I don't regret moving, but you just reminisce, and you never feel the same when you're not at home.
Absolutely, I know that. Who is the person that you were most candid with in your career?
In my career, I would say myself. I'm very forward and very blunt with myself. If I want to do something, I strive to do it.
Okay. When did you show the most courage in the past year?
This year we have to show a lot of courage because of the COVID, going to places and, just being very careful. I would say just with the whole COVID situation, just, being brave and getting out there.
Mm-hmm. And what one thing do you miss most about another place that you've visited in your life?
Well, I miss home where I was born, in Louisiana. It's still there, but it's not the same. When you go back to it, it just doesn't feel the same.
Hmm. And what is the greatest thing that you've been told in the past year?
Greatest thing I've been told. I always feel proud when my dad tells me, I'm proud of you. You're doing good, son. I'm proud.
That's wonderful. What is the biggest truth that you've been told in the past year?
The biggest truth, be yourself.
Okay. And what was the hardest secret that you've had to keep in the past year?
Secrets. I really don't keep a lot of secrets, or
Okay.
that's kind of a difficult question. I really don't keep a lot.
What is the wildest thing that you've done in the past year?
Wildest thing. I really don't go to a lot of parties, but I did go to a party. But we were very isolated. It was, had to be safe with the COVID. But I did go to a party and enjoyed myself.
Good for you. And this is my last question for you. What is the one person that you have most enjoyed working with in the past year?
In the past year, so many people I've worked with. I've worked with so many great individuals in theater and radio, interviewees, interviewers, just so many people I'm grateful to have had the opportunity and chance to work with.
That's wonderful. Trey, don't go anywhere for a moment. I want to thank you for being here and being my final guest of this year. I end on a high note, everybody. Trey, you were a great interview. So thank you for being here. I hope you had as much fun as I did. I really enjoyed sitting down and getting to know you a little bit better. I thank all of you for joining us this afternoon. Thank you for being here. I hope that you will continue to follow Trey. He's on Facebook. Trey, you don't mind if they become your friends on Facebook, do you?
Absolutely, not at all.
No. It's Trey Olds, Olds, no E in Olds. And follow him on Facebook. Check him out. He's also interviewing people. Check those interviews out. Please, if this is your first time here, don't let it be your last time. Come back. My designer, Glenn Charlot, has made it very easy. Go to my website, richardskipper.com, and click on the button that says subscribe, or you can go to richardskippercelebrates.com and click on that and follow everything that I'm doing. It's very easy. leave a comment here on today's show. Share this with your friends. Tell everybody else. I will, of course, be off tomorrow, but we will be back to kick off 2022 with Chip Defa and the music of Irving Berlin. So I'm very excited about that. As I always end every show, and we're going to end this one as well, go out and do something nice for somebody else without expecting anything in return. Go to your Facebook friends list, and you're also going to put Trey Olds on that list now. You're going to reach out with a phone call, not an email message, not a text message, not a private inbox message, but a phone call. And you're going to reach out to the fourth name on your list today, and you're going to reach out and tell that person what they mean to you. And you're going to wish them a happy new year, and you're going to make a point of staying in touch as the year goes on. And as my dear friend David Friedman always says, we're all in this together, but we're not in the same boat. And as I always say, if you're going to go out in a boat, make sure you bring a skipper along. Now, Trey, I'm going to leave the screen, and I'm going to give you the final word. You can say anything you want to anyone who's watching about anything that we talked about today, anything that we didn't talk about that you wish we had, or just any message you want to put out to everyone. Don't worry about how to end the show. When you say goodbye, I will end the show. Thank you, everyone, for watching, and may we all have a blessed and a wonderful 2022. I'll see you all on the other side. Thank you so much. It's all yours, Trey.
I just want to thank everyone for listening to the interview, and Richard Skipper, thank you very much. And my main advice to you is, no matter if you want to get into the industry or not, any industry, have the craft, love it, be persistent, have a thick skin, be yourself, be you. God bless you all. Goodbye.